Hi guys, thanks for tuning in today to the bottom half of the top of Down Under. We're here today to check up and have a quick look at the 500 kilometre review on my CT500, the Honda Hunter, which has only just been released a few weeks back in Australia. So I was just out here watching a old man kangaroo sitting over there by a tree. He's got three females over there by the looks of it. Probably a bit hard to pick up on this little adventure camera, but he's just sitting over there amongst the trees. He's sort of got his back up over there to the tree over that way, and he's got three old females there with him by the looks of it. And by the looks of it, he's just laying up there whistling, and he could be whistling either "You're still the one" or "He's suffering wind," one or the other. But anyway, we'll let him be, because as the story goes with kangaroos, don't go too close to them because they could kick the crap right out of you, especially when they're surrounded by females. So let's let him be, come back out here, and we'll go back over here and I might do a quick review, 500 kilometre review on this bike. Now, anyone new to this channel or old hands will remember this road pretty well. I've been here with numerous bikes, in fact I've had several this year. And you can always pick where I've been here with these bikes, naturally, and some aren't really good. And you can see I've always left a track. And I guess some of them are just outright lemons. And it doesn't matter whether they're brand new or not, they're just lemons. But when we head over to this bike, this is a brand new CT125 Honda Hunter. I would class this bike as very, I hope we can read it, it's one sweet bike. Went to a bit of trouble to do that too. Do you know how hard it is to find a gum tree in Australia? Well, let's see. Not that hard, because they're bloody everywhere. So I've clocked up 500 kilometres on this bike, and there's a few things I can show you, but I'll do a walk around at the moment, especially one that looks as good as this. Take into account these bikes are in Australia retailing somewhere between $7.5, $7.8, depending on where you get it from, if you're lucky to get one at all. And the best thing about the particular bikes is whoever's lucky to secure one will be 100% satisfied with the bikes, and they're overall a very good bike. I'm happy with it. I often hear in the comments that they think they're a little bit overpriced, but I think for the purist or the person that really wants a bike like this, you'll be very happy with your purchase regardless, because if not, and I can honestly say this, if I wasn't happy with this bike I would have cashed it within the first week, because I do go through a fair few bikes. If I don't like them, I just move them out. They just don't appeal to me, and I've had a lot more expensive bikes than this particular bike. It's never sort of hit the market, but in all honesty, I really like this bike, and I couldn't care if all my other bikes went as long as they kept this one. So at this stage, I like riding this 120 kilo monster, and I will keep riding it. And I've even thrown a few accessories on it, like a can here on the side, pillion seat, and what else did I toss on it? Must have been, oh yeah, the high rise on the front fender. Now, if you ask which one's the favourite, well, surprisingly I like the front fender high riser on it, because I think that front fender gives it really a bit of style. It reminds me of when I rode the front fender on the Triumph Scramble I had last year, and also on the Himalayan. So it sort of gives it that more aggressive, just a little bit more, you could say, a bit masculine type look to it. It's a bit windy here today, so hopefully it won't affect the mic. So what I was going to say, overall, the bike itself, you know, it's a little bit on the pricey side, and they certainly know how to charge for these bikes, and take into account, really, it's more like a budget build bike in some areas, and Honda are cashing in on it and trying to get as much money out as you can. So there's really nothing you can do about that, but overall it is a nicely built bike, so you can't have it both ways. So you know, you either want the bike or you don't, and take into account, even if you're in a situation of say, geez, I'd really like one of these bikes but I can't afford it, Well, taking into account if you were in Australia, or you can get access to a Postie bike and you can pick one of those up for $2,000 or $3,000, well, that'd be good enough, and they're almost the same bike, and it's just a matter, you know, buy one of those, enjoy yourself on that, and you'll be pretty well satisfied either way you look at it, see. So, you know, you don't have to rush out and say, oh, well, I haven't got the money to buy one of these and they're too dear and all stuff like that. Just go the cheaper option, you'll be happy anyway, and they're virtually the same bike, because I've seen the postman ride past for the last X amount of years. In actual fact, the guy who lives next door to me is a postman, and you never hear him complain about his postman bike. He's always happy with it, and the only thing, I don't think he knows I've purchased this bike at the moment, because he possibly did not know I was interested in it until I bumped into watching Mark for the last couple of years and him talking about it on Biker Bits, and all of a sudden I thought, yeah, I might have one of these and I'd really like to try it out. And prior to that, you know, you probably couldn't have sold me one, you probably couldn't have given me one, but now I think I wouldn't be without one. So if you take all those into account, that's a person who, or I'm a person that's went from a 900 Triumph to a 650s, I got home, and 500s and stuff like that, down to a 125. And I'm more happy on the 125 at 120 kilos than the other bikes. And at the moment I'm not even riding the other bikes, and to be honest, I couldn't care if I ride them or not. So some mightn't like that idea, but the fact is, I like riding this, and I feel confident on it. It's nice and lightweight, and I can get out there and have a fair bit of fun on it. I've got the little seat on the back to, you know, give the wife a bit of a thrill if she wants to come along there, and she's only just gone it twice now, second time in 8 years ever on a bike. Never ever had the urge to want to get on before, so that makes her happy too. So, oh yeah, and while we're at it, if you're thinking about it, if you're interested in subscribing to the channel or looking at my other 10 or 15 clips, you can always go to my video section, and they're all on this bike for you to look at. Now, so as far as the seating goes, like, because it's only around 800 mils off the ground, the best thing about it, you can pull up somewhere like here, and you can just put both feet on the ground, or if you're out in the scrub and the bike sort of loses balance by chance, you can just sort of walk it along through the tracks or anything like that, and you can't do that with the bigger bikes. So that's one good thing. And also, when I'm out here riding in direct sunlight, I have no trouble seeing this display on the dash, where you would probably think I would have a bit of trouble, but anytime I'm out there I can read the speedo, whether it's in the shade, in direct sun, or anything like that. Another thing we'll point out, in case you're new here to the channel, which I'll go over a few things, the LED headlight. Well, I took it out for the first time a few nights back, and that was the first time ever I'd been out at night time in 40 something years, and I was very surprised how well it worked around town, and I've got a clip on it, on how well it worked out when I was riding it at 80 kilometres an hour. So it surprised me how well that peeper really worked. So it shone a really good beam down along the road, and I had no trouble riding along at 80 kilometres an hour. And if I saw a grey jumper or a kangaroo, it would have been on the side of the road. Even with my eyesight, I would have had no trouble whatsoever seeing that kangaroo. While we're at it, we might as well talk about the top speed of the bike. Well, it was sort of a little bit sluggish when I first got the bike, but now I've got into it a few times. I've put up close on 500 kilometres. I took it out one day and did a top speed run on it, and I got it to, on one little straight, 103 kilometres in a slight headwind. I went back that next day and given it another workout and tried it again, and then ran it up to was 105 kilometres. Now in the meantime, you know, you may get a little bit better than that, but I only just give it that quick burst, and you might say, it might have been a little bit hard on the bike, but considering what I've seen these guys do to a monkey bike or a Grom, what I've done to this bike's really nothing. It's just a little bit of a touch up. Those bikes on the Groms and the monkey bikes really flog them. So if you look at it that way, you know, what I did to it's really nothing. As far as another thing too, I took it out on dirt road hill climbs just by myself out to a place called Kinross Forest, and I was surprised how well it went. It climbed up a hill out there, and you'd have to be there to find out, but it ran up that hill as good as me KTM 390 adventure bike ran up it. So it ran up that pretty well. It ran around that forest as good as what the 500 Trials Enfield. The only thing, I thought the Trials had better tyres on it on the day, and it ran the loose gravel a bit better. So that was the other thing I've been asked about, the Kickstarter. Well, I used the Kickstarter a couple of times, and it's pretty easy to kick over. and it doesn't get in the way at all when you're riding along like that. It's sort of recessed back. It looks like it could get in the way, but no trouble whatsoever. And even though it looks a bit threatening, never in the way. The other question what I had, and some people wonder, what about if you got out in the bush and the battery went flat, could you start it? Well, there's also a clip on my site where, on my video links, where I actually totally disconnected the battery and then covered the terminal so I didn't do any short circuiting to the ECU. And when I did that, I turned the key on, kicked her over, and the bike started immediately. And then I turned the key off, then decided, oh well, I'll go and get the camera. Come back out, I kicked her over again, bike started again immediately. So if you're out there and you get a flat battery, no trouble again whatsoever. Will the bike handle 2-up? It'll handle 2-up, no trouble whatsoever. And it'll also cruise at 80 kilometres an hour or 50 mile an hour, no trouble whatsoever. It would use as much throttle at 80 kilometres an hour on good flat ground, no wind. Or even today when I came out here, I was running at 80 kilometres an hour with probably as much throttle as what I'd use on my 650 Interceptor. Just hardly any throttle at all. But if you probably push to 90, you might drop up a bit in throttle level. But if you look at 80 kilometres an hour, not much throttle at all to push it along. So it handles that well. Now, I will say one thing too, at one flat, going back a week or so ago, I did have the wife on the back, ran it up to 100 kilometres an hour on a flat, with 2-up in other words, 300 pounds in total, got it up to that, and it got to that speed on the flat, but I never had a camera there to prove it, so, you know, bad luck there. Now what else can I tell you about this one? Well, how about the ABS braking? The ABS braking on this particular bike is really good. It's only got ABS braking on the front, but they are really good stoppers. Not only are they good stoppers on bitumen, I tried them just here before I went over that stop, where I turned into here to come onto this part here. So I applied them there just to check them out again before I give you a report on those. They brought me down, and I only usually do, with this particular bike, I just work on front brake stopping because the ABS is that good. I don't even play around with the rear brake much, and it works alright, but in the beginning the front ABS braking system or the front disc was a little bit woody. That was the first 100, but now it doesn't matter whether I'm on sealed or whether I'm on dirt. You wouldn't believe a video I've got coming up where I'm out in the paddocks and I'm coming down a very steep hill, and that front stopper is holding the bike with the ABS system going down a no track hill with the wife on the back. Unreal, you know, like if you were on the back you would say, bugger this, I'm going to walk it. So, but that's how good the ABS braking system is. Now the exhaust system, we want to talk about that. I don't know, it's just a quite putt-putt exhaust, so as far as that goes, that side of it's alright. So I got no complaints on the exhaust. I've got the other bikes there with the sports exhausts on them, and what do I do with those? Well, I put earplugs in so I don't have to listen to them. So that's the story of a loud exhaust. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I don't really need it. Next thing, I suppose a few people have asked me, what about fuel economy? What do you got out of it? Okay, I was pretty easy on the first tank, took it easy, run it in nicely in those first couple hundred kilometres, and it worked out at the Bowser I got 60 kilometres to the litre. So, you know, that was pretty good. Since then, I've possibly upped the pace a bit, so I've been riding a little bit quicker. After that, I didn't worry about it because as it is, it's that good on petrol, I don't even worry about it. And, you know, in actual fact, if you have to worry about what you're going to get to the litre on this bike, things are pretty bad. And more importantly, if you can afford to buy the bike because they're a little bit pricier than normal, petrol economy shouldn't be worrying you that much. It should be, can you have a lot of fun on this bike? And the answer to that is yes. Well, I think it's a great little steerer, and what I mean by that, you know, when you're out in the paddocks you can steer it around easy. So if you look at the good steering and a really nice light weight of the bike, it's a bike that you can get out there, manoeuvre it around, steer it through the trees if you're in heavy stuff and you're not sort of working hard, and you've got the confidence once you get in there to know that if it sort of loses its weight or the weight shifts or you get into a tight spot, you can just pull the thing around, move it from one place to the other. And there's never a sign I've ever been on this bike where you think, oh, it's a bit of a danger period, what am I going to do? Because you just put both feet on the ground and walk it out of it and then battle on regardless. So, you know, there's just nothing to worry about on this bike. It's just a perfect little package. If anything is takes a little bit of getting used to is that gear change, and in Australia it's neutral at the bottom and 4 up, so it's a bit you know, with that no clutch system, and you just change up through and back off the throttle and all that. That takes a bit of getting used to, but in time that will be all sorted out. Once again, as far as kickstarting the bike goes, well, it's a very easy bike to kickstart. It's just no effort whatsoever, so it's a pushover in that one. The one thing, I don't know how it's going to go in other parts of the world, but here in Australia with the bike you get the centre stand and you get the side stand. Now I use the side stand quite a lot, except for today where I've just put it up on display, but if you get the option to buy the side stand, I think you'd use it a lot, because it's just something, and then you've got a habit of coming along, throw the side stand out and get it and get back on. And that side stand is set up with a few safety features, so you know, if you get onto it, you can't take off, put it in gear, go to take off with that side stand down, because it'll just cut out. So it has got the switches and all that in there to comply with all the safety regulations. Now it actually did add a toolkit with it when I got the bike too in Australia, but that was a fairly poor one. I did a slight review on that one. There wasn't much in that toolkit apart from a screwdriver, a fuse puller and a helmet cable. So you know, it was fairly poor in that line, so nothing too exciting. And if anyone wants to know the size of this rear rack, it's roughly 18 inches long by 16 inches wide. I suppose you've heard me throw all the good points on this particular bike. I suppose you'd say, well, it can't be all good. What are you selling bikes or something like that to be able to get here and say stuff like that? Now, I'm not selling the bikes, I'm just sort of giving you the hard facts at how good I think the bike is. So we'd say, okay, there surely must be some weak points to this bike. Yeah, well, there's a couple, but it's really not a serious weak point, nothing to get excited about. So if you ask me what are the weak points, I'd probably put them down to one serious one, fairly pathetic chain. Now I tightened this chain only about 30-40 kilometres ago, and look at it now, again. Now what's it going to be like in another 100? Now that was fairly tight when I tightened it. So the chain is really rubbish, I think, for a bike of this price. So there, I'll give you something. Now the tyres are alright if you're riding around town. I think I can get better tyres on it, and I will go to a better quality tyre, but that's no fault of the bike, and just something you've got to put up with. And the thing is, if you're just riding around town or like dirt roads or something, and I really wouldn't know nothing about those tyres, whether they're good or bad, only that the Enfield trails I've got handles dirt roads better than this particular bike. I don't know whether it's because it's 200 kilos or they're just a better tread pattern. So the only way to find out is later on put a better set of tyres on this particular bike and then bring it back out and then try it that way. So if you look at things that way, there's they are the fault. One bad chain, and it's a choice of you whether you want to upgrade to the tyres. But you know, when you come to it, it's pretty bad when I can get out here, and I've been riding it for 500 kilometres, own the bike, trying to think of what I can tell you, or a really truthful review on the bike, and I've got to say all I can find is just a miserable chain. So because some bikes are bad out here, and believe me, you would not want to own those bikes, because after that I usually put them on Gumtree or some other thing and get rid of them, because I just don't want the crap. But this one here, it's a really good bike, and I'm sort of excited about it. And the best thing about it, you can go over, you can turn that key just like this, and you can press that button once it charges, and it'll start all the time, and you'll get a bit of a smile, and then you'll go mobile. So you know, that's something you can't do with every bike, and I found that out whether they're brand new or not. Some of the bikes I've had, I always work on the principle that you bring them home and then you start fixing them. And it's been a case with a lot of the bikes I've bought new, and this is not one of them. This is really a bike where you think to yourself, you get up in the morning, come out, look at it, smile, and you think, where will I go? We'll conclude this with, who do I think this bike's really for? Well, I think if you've had a bike similar to this many years ago, or you want to come back and buy something like this now, and you're just after one of these to potter around with, head it down to the shops, go out on the back streets or back roads like I'm doing here now, go out on the odd bush trail, go out and enjoy yourself, it's going to cost you virtually nothing to run. I think you're the target that will suit this bike perfectly. Now, if you're a guy who wants to get here, climb the steepest hill, want to know how fast it'll go, power up here, do this, well, it'll run through this and that, and expect it's going to run like a 390 adventure bike or something like a 40 horsepower. The best idea is don't waste your money and wait till Honda bring out their new adventure bike in that either 400 or 500 and grab something like that. This isn't the bike for you. This bike's more just a trip back in time and a nostalgia bike, more like just a glorified postman bike, and it's probably not that much different to a postman bike except it's got a different badge and name on it, or different badging or something like that, but we've had the same style, swept back air cleaner style here for years, so there's no big deal here. But if you're asked, is it something that you can get in and ride around for a long time? Yeah, I think it's good, and I think you know, I've had a few people say to me, well, what a cute bike and that. So that's something where people will come up and talk to you, and they don't even class you as a threat on that. Compare sometimes on bigger bikes, they don't even want to talk to you and they just look at you and think, hope they soon buzz off. That's the impression you get sometimes when you pull up on the bigger bikes, or I figure you do. So overall, yeah, and one thing about it, it seems to get out along the road. If you ask once again, it'll cruise easy at 80 kilometres an hour, so that answers all questions on that line. While I'm at it, I better tell you that when I went to this rear seat, well, the main reason I swung over to the rear seat was on the Australian model we also get rear foot pegs. So I was thinking, what's good rear foot pegs if you haven't got a rear seat? And the wife went out with me once and sat on the back seat and on the pillow, and I thought, oh well, I'll order that. So it's a bit more comfort there for her. While we're here like this, I'll turn the bike over. We'll swing the Kickstarter in gear, and that's how easy it is to start. Just one little kick, back over there, and you've got that Honda reliability when it kicks over. Yeah, so overall, I hope you enjoyed this review, and give it a thumbs up if you did, and I'll give you all what I think is a really honest review on this bike. One of the next ones coming up will be an oil change, and then I'll decide if I'm going to rip out that and clean the spinner and that while I'm at it. I'll just decide, because with this particular bike, I was just there checking a while ago that I will have to remove the Kickstarter lever to get into it. So might be a little bit more involved to do that. I don't know whether I'll do that or just drop the oil and then wait till I get to 1,000 kilometres to do that. It'll be just something how I feel, but compared to working on end wheels where there's a fair bit of work involved with those at time, either way it shouldn't be much of a challenge to do either one. Those looks fairly simple, but the main thing is I just hope you got a bit out of this with the information I've given you on the bike, and I don't think there's not much more I can tell you about this bike apart from that if you're on the fence there or you've got your name down and people are telling you about how good they are, well, naturally, like sometimes somebody buys a bike and they will say to you, yeah, it's a good bike, and they try to save face because they've made a mistake and they don't like saying it, but I like to give a good honest opinion of what I buy, and I can assure you this is a good little bike when I'm really happy with it, and you'll see a lot of reviews and a lot of test rides and a lot of running on this one because I'm like 100% satisfied, and I've got some really nice clips coming up of rough country riding, and you'll be able to see not only do I talk about it, but I actually put it where I'm supposed to be out there in the paddocks and give it a workout and just show you what it's like. So once again, thanks for tuning in, taking a look. I'll catch up with you at a later date. Hope you enjoyed this review, and I hope that you think, if it's here for the first time, that you may think about subscribing to the channel, and catch you later. So cheers.